Atomic Blonde. Well, the trailers look great, but the real question is, can it escape the shadow of John Wick? Stick around and find out. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Lavin and I review movies to help you manage your expectations so when you walk out of the theater, you're not left disappointed. Now this weekend I had a chance to go see Atomic Blonde. Now I didn't know a whole lot about the movie going into it. I had seen the trailers and I realized they were really playing up the fact that this was going to be an action movie with a female lead. Now the director David Leitch is one of the guys that worked on John Wick, so I knew there was a lot of comparisons between those two movies. Now if you've seen the trailer, you know it actually comes across like a revenge movie, but that's really not it at all. The story is Charlize Theron's character is an MI6 agent and she is sent to Berlin to retrieve some kind of critical information that has fallen into the wrong hands. Now this is very much a spy thriller, so it's going to be one of those movies you definitely have to pay attention to or risk getting lost. So the story really isn't that complicated. It's basically about a spy looking for information. The problem is it takes place in this very chaotic world, and there's one scene where they end up throwing a lot of characters at you all at once. So it can be kind of hard to keep them all straight in your head. I'm not gonna lie, there was one character set up as a bit of a mystery, and I spent the first half of the movie racking my brain trying to figure out exactly who this person was before I realized, oh, wait a second, they're intended to be a mystery. I'm not supposed to know who they are just yet. And in some ways, that's what the whole movie feels like. It leaves you in a bit of a haze, wondering if you missed something along the way. But I want to tell you to stick it out because in some ways, that confusion is intended. To add to the confusion, the movie is very stylized. A lot of the camera work can be very disorienting at times. Some of the transitions are very in your face and very noticeable. The use of colors is incredibly bold. As a matter of fact, if you've seen the marketing material, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because if you look at the poster, you'll see there's a lot of blacks, a lot of whites. The colors are very muted, except when it comes to the title. The title is these bright neon colors, and the movie does much of the same thing. It has these very muted colors on screen, except when they have to inform you of a new time frame or a new location. And in those instances, you have these bright neon colors that appear at the bottom left-hand side of your screen. Now I want to talk about the music just for a second, because the way they use it is very stylized as well. There'll be times you'll be watching a scene and you're really starting to get into the song, and then all of a sudden it will just abruptly stop. There are other times you're watching a scene and you're hearing the music play and they'll end up changing the perspective on you. You're hearing it as an audience member and then all of a sudden the sound gets really muffled and you realize you're hearing it from the character's point of view, and then all of a sudden it's back to the audience's perspective. And it's almost as if the director is using these stylistic choices to keep you off balance. When you're listening to a song and it abruptly stops, it knocks you off balance. When you're watching a scene that's full of muted colors and then there's flashes of neon, it knocks you off balance. It's trying to keep you in a state of confusion because that's what the story is doing. It's trying to keep you guessing. Now, I know it sounds like I'm mentioning these things as a negative, but I'm really not. The truth is, I just wasn't really able to appreciate them until after I walked out of the theater. Now, John Wick has gained a bit of a reputation for being this fun action movie, largely because of the fight choreography and the way it was shot. And Atomic Blonde lives up to that. There's a lot of really great fight scenes scattered throughout, and I have to give David Leitch credit for that. You know, not every director knows how to shoot action scenes. That's why they resort to the shaky cam technique. But it takes a little bit of time and a lot of imagination to really shoot a scene that conveys intensity, is easy to follow, and looks great. The acting was also great. Charlize Theron does her job. James McAvoy does his job. I completely bought into their characters and the complexities that came with them. I completely forgot John Goodman was in the movie. Now, I know he's featured in the trailer, but I just love this guy in anything he does. He doesn't have a huge part, but it's a significant one, and I really enjoyed seeing him. Now, the only real negative I would mention is I think the director might have been a little too effective at keeping people off balance, because I do think there's a couple of people who are going to walk out of the theater and they're going to be scratching their head. Not so much because the movie was done bad, but because sometimes the changes they make are so abrupt that it feels like it gives you a bit of whiplash. Now, I do need to say you need to make sure you stick around to the very end of the movie. There's this point where it feels like everything is kind of wrapped up. You have all your questions answered, but not really. And then it goes into the shot that feels like the last scene. But the truth is you have another 10 or 15 minutes after that, and it definitely adds to the experience. So make sure you don't walk out of the theater until you see the first credits roll. Now, I'll be honest, as I've done this review, it's forced me to think about this movie, and the more I think about it, the more I enjoy it. So I will say Atomic Blonde is easily worth a second look. So those are my thoughts on Atomic Blonde, but what are your thoughts? Why don't you jump in the comment section below and let me know? And as always, if you've made it to this point in the video, that means you must have liked it, so why don't you go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and make sure you hit the subscribe button on your way out so you're kept up to date next time I get ready to upload a new video.